All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about something, well, it's a really powerful idea. What if I told you that the solution to your most frustrating, nagging problem isn't out there in some book or with some expensive consultant? What if it's already hiding right under your nose, inside your own organization?
Okay, so let's just get right into it. Think about it for a second. The last big change initiative at your work. The new software, that mandatory training session, or the latest best practice that got imported from some other company. How often do those things actually stick, right? I mean, more often than not, they just land with a thud, and pretty soon everyone quietly goes back to the old way of doing things. It's a frustration we've all felt. But why? Why does this keep happening?
Well, there's actually a name for this. It's called the organizational immune response. And it's a great metaphor, right? Just like your body fights off a virus, organizations have this built-in defense mechanism that attacks and rejects ideas that feel, well, foreign. People push back, they resist, because the solution wasn't invented here. It's this incredibly powerful invisible force, and it's exactly why just trying to force change from the top down almost never works. So let's dig into that traditional approach for a minute. On the surface, it seems totally logical, but there's a huge flaw in it, one that basically guarantees it's going to trigger that immune response every single time. You know the playbook, right? It's pretty standard. We run all these diagnostics, we pinpoint what's broken. It's what you'd call a deficit-based approach. Then we bring in the experts to implement some best practice that supposedly worked somewhere else. But here's the massive problem with that. It completely, totally ignores the possibility that someone on your team, in your department, has already figured out a better way to do it. And that brings us to a completely different way of thinking. It's a radically simple but honestly profound alternative. It's a total shift in perspective, and it's called positive deviance. And this right here, this is the core idea. It's a complete flip in your thinking. So instead of obsessing over failure, constantly asking what's wrong, what's broken, positive deviance makes you ask a totally different question. What's working? Who right now is succeeding against all odds? And more importantly, how can we learn from them? Seriously, this is a total game changer. So here's the definition, the crucial point. Positive deviance is all based on this simple observation. In any group, I'm talking a sales team, a fire station, an entire community, you'll find a few people or a few small teams who are getting uncommonly good results. But here's the key, and this is everything. They're doing it with the exact same resources and under the exact same constraints as everybody else. They aren't superhuman. They've just discovered some uncommon behaviors that really, really work. Okay, so how do you actually do this? How do you put it into practice? Because this isn't just some vague philosophy, right? It's a structured, practical approach. It's called the 4D process, and it's designed to help you uncover that hidden genius that's already in your organization. It all starts with step one, define. And what's key here is the community itself defines the problem. It's not being dictated from on high. Then step two is determine. This is where you use data to actually find those positive deviants, those outliers who are already knocking it out of the park. Step three is discover. This is the fun part. You dig in and uncover their uncommon but replicable behaviors, their secret sauce. And finally, step four, design. You create activities so that other people can actually practice these new behaviors and learn by doing, not just by listening. Okay, I know what you're probably thinking right now. This all sounds great in theory, but does this stuff actually work in the real world? Well, let me tell you, the proof is absolutely stunning, and it comes from all over the globe. So the story of positive deviance actually starts back in the 1990s in Vietnam. You had all these international aid organizations pouring in, trying to fight this terrible problem of childhood malnutrition. But the traditional solutions, shipping in food supplements, giving lectures, they just weren't working. Why? Because the real problems were poverty and poor sanitation, and you can't just fix those overnight. But then, the researchers noticed something really interesting, a clue. Even in the absolute poorest villages, there were a few families whose kids were perfectly healthy. I mean, totally well-nourished. And these families faced the exact same poverty, the same lack of clean water, the same everything. So the obvious question was, what on earth were they doing differently? And the solutions they found, they were so simple, and they were all locally sourced. Turns out these parents were adding tiny shrimp and crabs they found in the rice paddies, plus sweet potato greens into their kids' rice. Now, these were seen as low-class foods at the time, but they were absolutely packed with nutrients. And they did one other thing. They fed their kids 4 smaller meals a day instead of the usual 2 big ones.
And the result? Get this, they designed these community programs where other mothers could come and just practice these simple, homegrown behaviors. Within 2 years, severe malnutrition dropped by 74%. 74%. Think about that. No outside experts telling them what to do, no expensive supplements shipped from halfway around the world. It was all just about finding and amplifying local wisdom.
But okay, this isn't just a feel-good story from a faraway village. Let's talk business. Take the biotech company Genentech. They had a couple of sales reps who were outselling everybody else by a factor of 20 to 1. So what was their secret? Were they just amazing salespeople? Nope. They figured out that the real bottleneck wasn't the sale. It was the ridiculously complex insurance paperwork. So they started teaching the doctor's office staff how to get through it. They totally redefined the problem from selling to enabling access. And once the other reps started doing that, sales went through the roof. Or how about Hewlett-Packard? They were getting killed by this overheating problem in their equipment, and management was kind of just dismissing it. But they went looking for positive deviants. And guess what they found? A handful of engineers who, in their own time, on their own dime, had already built brilliant, effective cooling solutions right there in their labs. The company rallied around these internal innovations, and it led them to dominate the market. The solution was there the whole time. Management just had to bother to look for it. One more, from finance. Goldman Sachs needed to shift to a whole new advisory model. Instead of just sending out a memo from the New York headquarters, they did something smart. They found the teams that were already thriving with this new model and just had them train their peers. This completely bypassed that typical resistance, the "you don't understand our local market" pushback. Why? Because the so-called experts were their own colleagues sitting right next to them. So you can see how powerful this is, right? It works in villages, in biotech, in tech, in finance. So now let's bring it home. Let's talk about how you can apply this in your world, especially in a really high-stakes field like emergency management. Think about it. Instead of drafting yet another 100-page procedure, why not find that one incident commander who consistently, time and again, resolves things faster than anyone else, and then go study what they actually do in their command meetings? Instead of launching another generic awareness campaign, why not find that one neighborhood that's already incredibly prepared for a disaster, and go discover what their block captains are doing to engage people? The answers? They're already out there. They're probably sitting in your own data right now. Now look, adopting this approach, it does require a really big shift in how we think about leadership. You have to stop being the expert who has all the answers. Instead, you have to become the facilitator who asks all the right questions. Your job isn't to come down from the mountain with a solution. It's to create the space and protect the process so that the community, your team, can find the solution for themselves.
Ultimately, it really all comes down to this one core belief. And a quote from the source material just captures it perfectly. The idea is that there is a staggering amount of wisdom and innovation already bubbling up from the front lines of any organization. And true leadership, it's not about overriding that with top-down directives. It's about recognizing it and then unlocking it.
So, as we start to wrap this up, I want to leave you with a question, a challenge, really, to take back to your team. Think for a second about your most persistent, most annoying problem. You know the one that never, ever seems to get fixed. Now ask yourself this: who, somewhere in my organization, is already succeeding despite that problem? Because that right there is the ultimate takeaway of positive deviance. The change agents you're desperately looking for, they're already on your payroll. They're your outliers, your hidden innovators, your positive deviants. So your job, it isn't to be the hero who swoops in and solves the problem. It's to be the detective who finds the heroes that are already among you.